So this is the sophomore follow-up from Emerald Fennell, who previously did Promising Young Woman, which we reviewed back in 2020. That movie was kind of mixed, very divisive. I remember saying that, well, we thought that Emerald Fennell had a ton of promise as a director, and it would be interesting to what her future films would be like. Here we are with Saltburn, which stars, Barry Keoghan as Oliver, who is a new student at Oxford, and this is taking place back in the fall of 2006, 2007. And Barry, or Oliver rather, is an outsider. He is a working class person who's had to work very hard to get into Oxford. He's a scholarship boy, as they say. He's not cool. He doesn't really have any friends here, and he's in a world he doesn't really know or recognize, where there's a bunch of absurdly wealthy elitist students. His first class has literally two students in it, and it's them just talking with the professor, and the professor knows the other student. He's like, oh, I went here with your mother, and they're very chummy. And so he's in a world he doesn't know but would love nothing more than to be part of it. He eventually makes friends with Jacob Elordi's Felix, who's one of the wealthy, vapid characters in the movie. They have a great school year, and at the end of the sorry, at the end of the school year, he invites him to come to Saltburn, his family estate and home, for the summer. When he goes out there, he then tries to become one of these elite people. He tries to play the games that they play. He wants desperately to become an insider. There's some other great performances, of course. Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant are in this. Archie Madukwe, who we saw in the Gran Turismo movie, is great, playing a really good part, because he was just kind of a stock character in the Gran Turismo movie. So it's nice to see him in here. So that's our setup. Zach, what do you think?
Saltburn is really fantastic vibes, and it crucially lacks in substance, but only in like the second half. I got halfway through Saltburn and was thinking this is a top 10 film of the year. This movie's awesome. It looks so great. God, if you've seen the trailer, if you're watching live, the trailer looks incredible. Like, the music seems good. You have a great cast. Emerald Fennell's an exciting new director, and while we didn't love Promising Young Woman, I felt like Saltburn is going to be something really exciting and really different. But then, like, surprisingly, much like Promising Young Woman, I find Saltburn's like faults come in its script. Emerald Fennell wrote and directed both films. Saltburn begins to take some turns in its later parts that don't feel natural, like natural extensions of what we see in the open and what we see in the trailer. And I think it ends up being surprisingly misleading, and I was really bummed. I think it might be honorable mention material this time around for me. I'm still thinking about it. I love the look, I love the feel of this movie. But boy, its characters just do some odd things, and I think that's really strange, and I'm still trying to piece together why and what that means. Before we started recording, Andy and I were talking a little bit about it, because we haven't actually talked about it yet. This will be our first real conversation, so thanks for listening in. I don't get what Emerald Fennell is trying to say sometimes, you know. And when I watched Promising Young Woman, I thought it's because I'm just a dumb man. I'm one of these guys that she is pointing at in that film, and I need to not be that, and grow and change and not be that dude. But when I watch Saltburn, I just end up a little perplexed. And I want to talk about that without talking about spoilers, because that's not what we do here. Andy, what did you think of Saltburn?
I loved the look of it. The vibes of Saltburn were great. I was so excited when this movie started. It has a great intro opening scene, and the first act is so good. And usually that's my biggest complaint, is even a lot of times really good movies or exciting movies will have a lot of kind of a boring first act where they're doing all the setup and table setting, and then it really gets going. And this is kind of the opposite, where we have a really strong start. Basically, their year at school is the first act, and we see Oliver slowly break into this kind of elite kids club, and begin to just kind of come out of his shell, blow off class, party, experiment with substances and girls and boys, and we see a lot of interesting character things, and then we set the table for Saltburn, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. It reminded me of much better boot movies about the same topic. A lot of people have been comparing it to The Talented Mr. Ripley from 1999, which is about someone kind of assuming someone else's identity in order to break into an elite circle. And also, it reminded me of The Little Stranger, which we reviewed on the show with Domhnall Gleeson, about a doctor in England who's trying to also break into the very elite posh society, and that movie is very much about self-acceptance, and inevitably he doesn't, and in that movie, and it's about something. And in this, we don't really get that. Our characters are kind of the same from beginning to end. They don't change. They don't There's not new revelations about them. When a lot of the surprises are all is revealed by the end, it's just kind of eye rolling and not surprising at all. But the filmmaking itself is incredible. There's these great scenes at Saltburn, which is this very gothic like manor. There's a big party scene halfway through. Emerald Fennell has such an incredible eye behind the camera, but the writing is just lacking. And I think maybe she just needs to work with a different writer and not
Yeah.
her own scripts.
Yeah, I know this film was shot by Linus Sandgren, who's a cinematographer for show favorite Babylon. Love that movie. Also shot No Time to Die with Sam Mendes. Like, my man knows how to shoot a movie. And like, one thing's for sure, like, I think Emerald Fennell has dialed in her directing, and especially like her ability to collaborate in this sophomore feature. But her writing is not. It's not bad. Okay, I don't want to say it's bad. You know what this movie reminded me of? It's funny you say it reminded me of Talented Mr. Ripley. I definitely got the vibe. It also reminded me of Alex Garland's Men. Because if you saw Men, and we covered it on the show, Men's, like, the first half of Men is like going in a good direction, and I like the pace. And then the second half is like, whoa, like what is happening? Like, I did not think this was the message that I was kind of in tune for. And the trailer for Saltburn and also Emerald Fennell's interviews around the film, I think I tragically have hurt this, at least for me. Maybe I've been following it too closely, but the movie really makes it look like it is a film about obsession. And in that way, it's a film about obsession with Barry Keoghan's character, Oliver Quick, with Jacob Elordi's character, Felix. It looks like Jacob Elordi is the center of attention, the crown jewel. Somebody said that, to Emerald Fennell in an interview, that you just made a movie about how, like, Jacob Elordi being unbelievably hot. And she was like, yep, absolutely. And it really seems that way. And in the first act, you get these really great montages of the two of them getting to know each other and spending time and getting a pint. And like, all of that feels so genuine and good. And I was reminded of like how I felt watching Bros, when Bros was like this big cinematic gay romance, but it feels a little phony and a little removed because it's like a rom-com. But Saltburn feels so honest and real and intimate and thoughtful and grand and gothic. And then once we actually get to our house, it turns out that Felix is not necessarily the object of desire. And you've been rubed in the first act, and it's like, what? Hold on. And I think that is a bit of a bummer. And it's not that I shouldn't have expected it to be that. I think if anything, it makes it better for rewatch. But I feel like she does such a good job of setting up something that the movie isn't going to be, that when it finally arrives at what the movie is, you're disjointed and you're not in the seat for it, because you're thinking, well, hold on, where was this going? What was going to happen with that plot thread? And it makes for an interesting feature. I mean, the tagline of the film, we're all about to lose our minds. The poster looks like this like astral, kind of trippy LSD almost kind of thing. But I don't know if the movie ever gets there really. And it's a shame, because I do like it, but it's like it's trying to be something it's not, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the strong parts of this are its characters. When we finally get to Saltburn, we're introduced to kind of the wider cast. Like we said, Oliver is desperate to be wealthy, be accepted into this elitist circle. But when he arrives at Saltburn, there's so much he clearly doesn't know. So there's so many like traditions and so many just culture of the very wealthy that he doesn't know, and he's constantly stepping on his own toes or other people's toes. There's the butler that's here just looks down on him in disdain, like constantly. It's really funny, but he's in this world with other really interesting characters. Again, Jacob Elordi is kind of this aloof, incredibly attractive, but also kind of vapid, but more caring character seemingly than most other people. We have Archie Madukwe plays a character named Farley, who's kind of the antagonist of the film. He knows what Oliver is all about, and he sometimes can use him. A lot of times is just very much sabotages him, and as well as other people. We have the parents played by Rosamund Pike and Richard E. Grant, who are just terrible rich people. It's great. They talk about someone dying, and Rosamund Pike says, "Oh well, she would always die just to get people's attention." Um, and again, he's trying to navigate these kind of absurd people in this absurd place. But I think that was one of the more interesting parts of it, are the kind of dynamics of the different characters. It's almost kind of like the royal family, where everyone has different priorities, and sometimes they're working together, sometimes they're not. There's alliances and non-alliances, and all with this fantastic gothic backdrop of this English estate. So it's like, man, there's some of this movie that just really, really works, and it's a shame that the overall it kind of doesn't.
You're right. The performances are really tremendous. Barry Keoghan is fantastic to follow. I'm so used to him being just kind of like a side character. Like he doesn't often get the protagonist role, so it's nice to see him up front and center. And he manages to have that, like, he's got that deep eye thing. Like, where you can look him in the eyes and be like, I have no idea what this person is thinking, right? Like mystique almost. And it makes for a unique character. And Oliver Quick, Jacob Elordi is tremendous as Felix. He is the most likable, charismatic, interesting person in the room. Like, it is immediately apparent why anybody at this school would want to be friends with Felix, would want to talk to him, would just want him to look at them for 10 seconds. Like his light is warm and bright, and I can tell it's immediately obvious that Oliver wants to be in that light. Archie Madekwe, he's really good in this movie. I liked him more in this than I liked him in Gran Turismo, and he's the lead in Gran Turismo. And tragically, in Gran Turismo, he gets third billing behind Orlando Bloom and David Harbour, and he's the lead in the movie. And in this, he gets
Orlando
last
Bland.
billing. Yeah. What was it? Orlando Loom? Was that the joke? Yeah. But I got to reset. But in this movie, like, he's really good, even as this side character Farley, who's this bit of an antagonist and is constantly looking down at Oliver for not being from wealth like he is and everybody else is. Rosamund Pike's having a great time. Richard E. Grant's real goofy. Like, I think the cast is great, and yeah, our setting is so tremendous. I had read on Twitter that Emerald Fennell was able to acquire this estate in the UK where the entire film was shot because her parents come from wealth and they had some sweet connection, and it's like their family friend or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know about any of that. All that's unconfirmed, but I did want to state that this is all shot on location, and it looks tremendous. Saltburn is not a real estate. I don't actually have the name of the real house. But boy, like, it's such a treat to spend time in, especially like just from our open, like when we're introduced to Saltburn, and as we like move through the house in this very quick off the cuff tour with Jacob Elordi's characters, this music kind of swells in, and Oliver just gets drawn in by like the scale of the place, and somebody, it's a surprisingly funny film, a la Promising Young Woman, some great jokes, good tension even. Somebody will say, "Oh, I'll meet you in the library." It's like the library. Where is that? Or like, "Oh, you can find that servant in the kitchen," and they're like, "Where's the kitchen again?" Like, it's just such a big estate for like 5 people to spend time in that it ends up feeling like old and stately and rich, while also having a character like Felix be so contemporary and down to earth and almost like hipster liberal, right? Makes for a good back and forth, and creates an interesting landscape for Oliver to kind of find himself in Saltburn, I think.
I wanted to mention a couple of last things. First of all, Carey Mulligan makes a brief appearance in the movie. Her character is credited as Poor Dear Pamela, which is hilarious, I think. I really enjoyed the score to this. It's a mix of some classical music, but also it's got some synth things going on. I want to listen to it again. Might be adding it to my uh, very long film soundtrack playlist, which I've not added to very much this year at all. But I think that again, the vibes of the film are immaculate. Like that part is working. Again, it's just kind of our narrative plot. Like, where do we go? Where does our character end up across this? Also, I've seen this interesting comparison to vampires, that everyone in the film is a vampire in one way or another, and there's a lot of kind of subtle and not so subtle vampire imagery throughout it. So that's kind of an interesting thing you might think about if you see it.
I'm thinking about it right now. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I can kind of see. Yeah. Yeah. That comes together. All right. Any other? Yeah. The music's great. Again, it's such a good looking movie. Like I like. Listen, every artist should work towards being the best version of themselves that they want to be. I think Emerald Fennell's a fine writer. Honestly, though, she dialed in the directing so good here. I almost want to see her do a feature she didn't write at this point. Like I'd love to see her take a swing at an independent script, you know, or maybe pick up a script from another prolific screenwriter and see what comes out. You know, like Saltburn's really good. I just think it tragically doesn't stick the landing in the third act. It's got such a great launch in Act 1. Act 2 gets rocky. Act 3 starts to fall right off the side, and it's like, oh no, like, oh bummer, you know, like I really do think it's a cool flick. I'll probably rewatch. But we should get to recommendations. Andy, any other thoughts for recommendations?
I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Saltburn?
I would only recommend it to people who are like have heard about it and you're excited to see it, because I know it's had a lot of buzz. It's got some, is it going to be nominated for Oscars? So if you're interested in it and you're a fan of her previous movie, I would recommend it. But probably for the average person, I would say probably save it for streaming, because it does have some crazy scenes. It's definitely bold cinema. But I think definitely for the fans of like A24 films and independent cinema.
Yep, same boat. Bold cinema fans, you're going to like Saltburn, I think, or you won't like it, but whatever. You'll come out of the other side of it and feel like, you know what, I saw something I can't see anywhere else. And that's ultimately what Saltburn is. It's an escape to a place that none of us can go. And I think that's what makes it so exciting for our lead, right, Oliver Quick. Unfortunately, I think it also starts to overstay its welcome, you know, not unlike maybe our protagonist. I think Saltburn's good, though. Like I said, I don't know if it's top 10 of the year material, but like I'm going to be thinking about this movie for a little while, I think. And if I do want to revisit Emerald Fennell's work at some point, I would watch this over Promising Young Woman in a New York Minute. And I like Promising Young Woman fine, but Saltburn is special. Just, it's not quite as shiny as I think a lot of us maybe might have thought it would be. And that's our show for the week. Good Lord, episode 234 of Off Script. Another one down, Andy. We're coming up on 250. What are we watching next week?
So next week, or this Friday, is December 1st. New month is rolling over. We're going to be taking a look at Godzilla -1, which is the latest film of the Godzilla franchise. This takes place post-World War II, which is kind of what Godzilla has always recommended. It's a big action effects heavy film. Other releases. Oh, the other thing we're watching is December, which is going to be out on Netflix. And this is the drama starring Natalie Portman and Juliana. I can't remember her name now. Anyways, it's a big. I don't know who
you're talking about. I can't either. Hold on, I'll figure it out.
Julianne Moore. There we go.
That's the one. Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
Love her. She's great.
This is a big drama awards contender film. Natalie Portman plays an actress who is doing research to play the character that Julianne Moore is, and who was involved in like a criminal scandal earlier in her life, and so she's going to do research and kind of learn about that. It's supposed to be a very dramatic thing. That's going to be December 1st, as well as Beyonce's Renaissance concert. We're not watching that, but that is going to be also coming out on Friday. And some upcoming December releases to look forward to. Poor Things opening December 8th, along with The Boy and the Heron by new Studio Ghibli film. Eileen, the psychodrama starring Thomas and Mackenzie and Anne Hathaway. And then, of course, on December 15th, we'll be taking a look at Wonka. So a lot of really great releases coming up for next week, Godzilla -1 and May, December.
I think the December 8th show, we might have to, whatever that Tuesday after, December 12th or 13th, we might have to do 3, man. I maybe we can skip Eileen, but I'm definitely watching Boy and the Heron, and I really want to see Poor Things. I think that movie is going to be, it's got like a 96 on Rotten or something. It's insane. So we'll see. Won't make $1 billion. That's not how it works, but excited to see it anyway. If you like, I got to plug the show. This is the part where I plug the show. If you liked Off Script today, episode 234 or 233 last week, if you liked our Saltburn review, or maybe disagreed with our Napoleon review, or agreed, the best way you can correspond with us is you can email us at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com and share your thoughts on the show. You can comment or DM, whatever, on the usual social media sites. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. You can also follow us on those platforms. That's a sneaky something to get updates about the show. And of course, if you're watching the show on YouTube, where we have a lot of really great things going on, please go check out the YouTube channel. Shameless plug for the YouTube channel. Subscribe over there if you can swing it. We're publishing individual reviews. We're growing fast. Things are going, not that fast, but things are going on over on YouTube. And of course, the audio version of the show is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia, all the usual podcast places where you can like and subscribe and rate and review with 5 stars, and then whatever you want in the comments, but hopefully nice things, because that's what we try to go for here on Off Script. You can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com, for more from the show, interviews, exciting things we're doing, and of course you can follow us at Off Script Film Review for whatever your film needs are. Movies are expensive. Podcasts are cheap. And Andy and I have been doing this long enough to tell you confidently that A, we're usually right about things, and B, we can see stuff before it happens. It's like telling the future. I'm telling you, this Jenna Ortega thing for Scream 7, we were talking about it last week, a day before it happened. We were like, no, that's not, they're just going to put the whole thing on her shoulders. And here we are. Think of what you'd know had you listened to Off Script. Think of all the things you could accomplish if you were listening to Andy and I every single week. And you can do that because we'll be back next week with Godzilla -1 in May, December. So if you want to hear that show, subscribe where you can. I should wrap it up. This has been way too long. From all of us at Off Script, the home of Bold Cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.